human misery, unhappiness, and problem. Because in the present state of humanity, although we think we are living in a very advanced state of human development, and we are in the postmodern civilization, the science and technology has achieved tremendous advancement, and the humanity can do almost everything whatever they wish to. But in spite of that, we have numerous challenges and problems. Taking humanity as a whole, the problem of violence, problem of insecurity, problem of fear, which bothers the humanity all the time. Particularly in these days, if we look upon the general state of affairs of the world, the violence, terrorism, domination, suppressive behavior is almost pervasive everywhere. Particularly economic disparity and economic and other kind of exploitation by powerful to the less powerful is always a source of struggle and conflict. And all these are arising in the beginning before expressing into a physical and vocal action. As everybody says that the war is taking place in the human mind at the beginning, that's true. All the conflict and all the violence and all the problems are arising, and if we are able to transform or alter or train the mind in a positive way, all these problems which we are facing day to day would be completely avoided. Eradication of all these problems and the source of problem. So therefore, we need to cultivate in our mind a compassionate emotion. In order to achieve such compassionate mind, we have to go through a systematic method of training the mind. The mind which is completely conditioned through sources, might be through education, through habits, and through a negative environment, and mostly the system in the society which conditions our mind. Right from the childhood, we are being taught and encouraged into a mindset of comparison and competition, through which we care for self much more than the others. And the equality between self and the other has been completely lost. And this is a malady or a kind of defect which is being created through civilization. The modern civilization have given a number of disbalances, and among these disbalances, disbalance between self and the other. And unless until you understand the equality between the self and the other, you will not be able to achieve the caring the others more than the self becomes most difficult. So, in the process of training the mind to cultivate into compassion, understand the equality, to cultivate, to create in your mind, to see or to understand, to internalize the reality of the equality of all the. In the modernity, we talk about equality, particularly in the political system, or so we are always looking for a kind of equality. And this equality does not give you the perception of real equality. The concept of political equality is, at most, it can give equal among the equals. The real equality among the unequals, apparently unequal individuals or sentient beings, not so easy. And here we have to educate the mind, train the mind to see the real equality on the two basic grounds. We are equal in one particular thing, that is to wish and do not wish for misery and pain. Even a smallest insect and the biggest animals like elephant or the most intelligent human beings, no one is willing to invite pain and misery. And everyone's looking for peace or pleasure. So this is the basic nature of all conscious people or sentient beings. So this is one ground of equal of all. And the other ground of equality is each individual, right from the smallest insects to the most intelligent individual human beings, they are potential achieving enlightenment and freedom. Each one has the seed of Buddhahood, if I speak from the Buddhist terminology. Everyone has the potential or the possibility to achieve omniscient mindset or the Buddha nature. There's no single sense of this potential. So on that basis of potential, all the sentient beings are equal. So on this basis, we have to realize that all sentient beings are equal and there's no differentiation. Then thereafter, our mind approach to the rest of the sentient beings, the approach of equality to all. Upekkha bhavana. Upekkha bhavana does not mean uncare or unmindful. Here upekkha bhavana means to treat or to approach each sentient being without any distinction, without any near or far, without any dear and undear, without differentiation, friends or enemies. So this is more difficult to achieve in our mind because we have prejudices to all other beings when we deal with the other sentient beings. If we see some relative, some friend, some very close associates, we feel happy and have a mindset of attachment to those people. and we see someone who is not friendly with us, and particularly unenlightened people do have and when we see enemies who have harmed to one person, or who have did some undesirable or injustice things to oneself, we feel very much hate and anger to that person. And when we see someone is unknown, unfamiliar to us, we just have without any happiness or unhappiness, without any attachment or detachment. So three different others, we have three kind of approach that distorts our mind to have an approach of equality, and through which a compassionate mind can be evolved for everyone. Compassion does not mean a love or a kind of good feeling for any individual. The Buddhist terminology, compassion means a mindset which is pervasive to all sentient beings. Among the categories of compassion, we make two categories. The first category is limitless compassion, and the other is great compassion. Parmiya karuna, mahakaruna. The great compassion is mahakaruna. That is a variation for Buddha nature, and which makes the person as bodhisattva. Karuna, a compassion which still do not have the power to take its fold the entirety of the sentient beings, but it is not to a limited sentient beings. Limitless sentient beings have been taken to the object of compassion or the kindness. That is limitless compassion. When it goes equal to karuna. So therefore, we mind not to differentiate any sentient being distinctively, differently. Equal attitude to all need to be developed. And if we are able to achieve that equal attitude can be transformed into a compassionate mindset. And compassionate mindset means seeing the suffering of that person and with great desire or willingness to remove that suffering. That is the real nature of. And in order to achieve such mentioned before, first we have to achieve the equal mind to all sentients, their suffering as a reality, and a great enthusiasm to remove those suffering. And in order to that, we need to understand the nature of suffering as well. At this moment, we do not see the entirety of the as it is. We only see there are three different kind of misery: the misery, and the changing misery, and at the base of misery. There are three kind of miseries. We only see the misery, the dukkha. That means the pain, the wound, or the deaths are in reality apparent pain and misery. That's easy to understand. But second thing is the worldly pleasure. The entirety of the worldly pleasures are in reality not a pleasure, not a happiness, misery or changing pain. Because when it disappears. All of these are transitory and impermanence. The entire worldly pleasure is impermanence and transitory. In reality, one misery goes away and other misery begins. At that moment, we feel a kind of worldly pleasure. And that worldly pleasure is bound to go. And if we remain with that pleasure, it will never sustain itself. And since it is impermanence, and since it is transitory, it is bound to decay and disappear. By disappearance of this pleasure, itself is a pain. You can see someone dear and near is lost. We feel great pain. Although the dear and near person's presence is a temporary pleasure, but it is bound to come to an end. All the wealth, all the affluence, whatever, bound to decay, bound to diminish, and that is changing misery. And then the basis of changing misery is the conditioned mind or the conditioned body. Our mind, body, speech are entirely under the control of our karmic force and our mental defaultments, which are cause of karmic force. So as long as we are not get freedom from this bondage of karma and klesha in this cycle of birth, death, rebirth, so this samsaric cycle will never come to an end. So that is the basis of all misery. And this three basic misery of oneself is realized, then the person can understand the misery of others as well. And by understanding of this nature of misery and how it is painful, and thereby how the entire sentient beings are real, the object of our compassionate mind can be experienced and understood. So this is a way to train the mind into the into the nature of compassion. And of course, it can be applied to all the spiritual practices are applicable in the daily life. Any person who begins a spiritual journey shall have to be combined the daily living and spiritual journey. Unless and until your all day-to-day activity is converted into a spiritual practice or a facility to spiritual practice, you cannot progress in the path of spirituality. It's therefore all the daily activities, it may be social engagement, it may be serving the family, or it may be performing the larger universal responsibility, whatever it may be. For example, talking, eating, reading, meditating, whatever you do, you have to a good motivation, and your action can be directly or indirectly helping or assisting to the cultivating of greater compassionate mind or in positive emotions. So each vocal, physical, and mental activities shall have to be watched through a mindfulness, a consciously prepared mindfulness, That means all your physical work and mental action or mental activities should not occur without noticing or noticing too late. So if you are able to work day-to-day, leading the life or activities which are completely under the observation of your greater awareness. Greater awareness means you do not do anything unawarely. That awareness is difficult to cultivate, and it also needs the 3 stages of training by which you will be able to achieve to remain aware or awake. That awakeness will be an observing mind. That observation will not miss any single point of your daily living or your activities, and thereby you would remain always mindful and conscious, and by which all the negativity can be reduced and eliminated, and all the positive can be developed or increased. Training of mind into compassionate one does not come in few days practice. It shall need to a permanent process of practice throughout the life, and perhaps it will continue life after life, and many births may be used for achieving the great compassionate mind. And once you achieve the great compassionate mind, you are in the path of a non-believer. Someone has not looking for achievement of Buddha nature or spiritual higher realm, yet as an ordinary human being, if you have some kind of compassionate mind, beings, your life would be much different and much better and much meaningful. Also impermanent, and whether I could complete my summation or not, I am aware that I shall have to stop my talking here, so that a little bit time could be left for your comments or observations. Thank you for your kind attention.